everyone, and welcome to Look Down There, the show where we talk about all the things we don't talk about. I'm your host, Michelle Amore. Today, my guest is a professional dominatrix, and she has been working in this field since 1993, so you better listen up. She has got some serious cred. She has been on many TV shows, has spoken at many universities, and has hosted many retreats as well. If you were in the LA area, she owned the store Damask in downtown LA, and it was a store especially dedicated to latex and kink. Super cool place. Please welcome my guest today and fellow Into Pleasure presenter, Isabella Sinclaire.
Hello, how are you?
Hello, Isabella. Every time I say your name, I think about every time David Letterman said Isabella Rossellini, and he would always say, Isabella Rossellini. So in my head, I say, Isabella Sinclaire.
That's fine. I love that. The drama.
Yeah.
Give me more drama.
Right.
Love it.
Well,
I have a David Letterman story. You want to hear it?
Oh, yeah. Let's hear about your Dave Letterman story. He's one of my faves.
Mine too. I grew up with him. It's very unfortunate. It's a very unfortunate story. I had done the pistachio commercial for Wonderful Pistachios, and he heard, I guess his bookers heard that I cracked the nut on the first try, and this commercial was, so well received, but so like, whoa, there's a dominatrix on national TV.
What was the commercial? What did you do?
I cracked a pistachio nut with a bullwhip.
Amazing.
And it kind of blew up. It was a really good experience, but all the networks, I didn't think it was ever going to show. I didn't think it was going to air, and every network wanted it. So it became the longest running pistachio commercial that they had. They kept renewing my contract for 4 years. But so David Letterman, their people wanted me on the show, and I was ecstatic. I was going to get to meet David Letterman and be a guest on his show. It was like a dream come true. The week before my spot I was supposed to fly there and be with him. There was the scandal where one of his employees that he had an affair with was going to try to blackmail him. I don't know if you remember that, but he went on air, and his opening monologue was about him admitting that he had done wrong and that he had had an affair. And it was a very I was very proud of him because this person was trying to extort money from him. But they canceled every controversial or risque, sexually related talent. And I was one of the ones that got cut. And I was hoping that it would blow over and they would have me back, but they never did. And I was like this close to meeting David Letterman.
Oh, damn it. Oh, that's rough. I hate when that stuff happens. It's like when showbiz just gets the best of you. I hate it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember watching the monologue and being blown away that he was admitting to these things. And, everybody was waiting for the punchline. There was no punchline. It was an intense moment. And then I was like, oh, well, that's cool. I didn't think it would affect me. And then I got a call from the booking agent canceling the thing. And I was like, oh, damn it. I was very upset.
Yeah. Well, it's proof that people are really interested and curious about kink and what it is that you do. And I think it's a testament to that. Before we get into all of that, how do you define kink? What does that mean?
Kink to me now is so rudimentary that, I guess if I step back to kink when I was young and didn't know anything and had never, didn't understand it, I thought that tickling with a feather was kinky. I watched 9.5 Weeks, and I remember having those kind of emotions and thinking that's kinky, but it wasn't overt kink. I didn't initially start thinking about shackles and nipple clamps and cock and ball torture or labia weights or anything like that. It was more muted down than that. And when I first started in the industry, I had only taken a few psychology classes, and that was my basic understanding of BDSM in general. But I had a curiosity because I was studying human sexuality, which is funny that this is the name of your podcast. My first human sexuality class, that was an instruction from the teacher, was to get a mirror and look at ourselves. So it's when you invited me to your podcast, it triggered that memory of like, I remember when I did that. So when I joined, when I started in New York, I was just more curious. I didn't know a spanking. Yeah, well, I grew up in the South. We all got spankings as kids, so I didn't really necessarily associate that with kink. They still spank in schools down there, with parents' permission. So there were a lot of things that I just didn't know, but I was a wide-eyed 22-year-old and was like, show me everything. And I had read a book also, Golden Showers. I didn't really think Golden Showers was necessarily kinky, but I knew it was perverse, and perverse and kinky were two different things at that point. Perverse was like, oh, you're going to get in trouble if you do this. Kinky was like, like softer. And so, yeah, I read a book called it was George Bataille, Story of the Eye, where the main character peed on this boy. And I was like, I want to do that. I want to pee on someone. And I did, just for fun, before I ever got into the industry. And then I learned the term golden shower, and I was like, oh, I did that already. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you were experimenting on your own in your personal life before you got into your professional life.
But I didn't know I was being kinky. I think I was thinking I was being naughty, which isn't necessarily the same thing, I don't think. So I don't know. I've never really broken it down into how I define these things. I've just done them and enjoyed them and kept doing them without dissecting it too much.
Yeah, I always think it's interesting when people use the word naughty to describe something that's sexual or pleasing. We get the dirty and we get the naughty, really more associated with women than I think with men. And
because we're not supposed to be the aggressors. We're not supposed to be naughty.
Right. But what is that? What does naughty mean? Does naughty mean that you're enjoying your body? Does it mean you're enjoying sex? Does it mean you're sexually confident? What is naughty implying?
I think for me, naughty meant something that my parents wouldn't want to know about, and that my girlfriends would go, oh, did that? That was naughty to me, is just that shock factor of doing it, and it wasn't accepted by society. Everybody's not doing this. I'm doing it, so I'm being naughty.
Yeah. So you began your training in New York. What is that? What does training look like?
I had no training. I began my career in New York, but there was really no training. I met a girl who was in the industry as a submissive, and I was curious. I was asking her all kinds of questions because I had this idea of a sexual sadist as being something menacing. And she was telling me that these men would pay to come in and hit her. And I was thinking, okay, that does not sound pleasant. I was just more curious because I remembered studying sexual sadism, and then it was geared more towards understanding serial killers and rapists and that kind of power exchange. It wasn't lighthearted, fun, consensual play. So I was like, what is this about? And she invited me in to watch a scene, and I laughed the whole time. I thought it was so cute, and she was so silly on her hands and knees, kind of crawling around, shaking her butt whenever he would tell her to. And I loved it. And I guess he realized I loved it because he invited me back to watch again. And then this time he's like, so you want to spank her? And I was like, can I spank you? And she's like, yeah, spank me. And so I spanked her, and then I grabbed a flogger. I had never used any of the tools before, but I grew up kind of a tomboy. My dad, taught me some martial arts things, so I knew how to use nunchucks. And a flogger was the exact same movement as something I had already learned how to do when I was a kid. So the tools were so easy for me to learn on, spanking, caning, like all of it. And when I got that, that experience was like mind-boggling, that I was having so much fun and that it was nothing like I had expected it to be. And the guy was nothing like I had expected. And I was like, yeah, let's see where this goes. I enjoy this. And I definitely enjoyed the wardrobe. I always had this superhero complex anyway. Anytime I would see a character in that strong, superhero kind of thing, I was like, I want to be like her. And my first piece of fetish clothing that I put on was a latex catsuit. It was like completely like altering.
That's like, yeah. I mean, you went all in like catsuit for the first time. That's intense.
I did a photo shoot, and it was the same designer who did the Michelle Pfeiffer catsuit. And he handed me a bullwhip, something also my dad taught me how to use. And when he handed me a whip, I would just like, cracking the whip. And the sad thing is I never got to see any of the photos.
Damn.
Because I have no idea the photographer's name. I don't know where I would even start to look for them. I'm hoping one day in my career, he will be like, oh, that girl that I photographed is now famous. Let me bring these photos out and show her, because that was just kind of the way it was back then. Photographers would just kind of disappear, and photos were all, film. So we didn't have the luxury of like downloading it to your computer on the spot. So I never got to see any of them. But my first latex was a catsuit, and it was also like the fabric was something I had never felt before. It was almost like an alien skin. And I just felt like a badass. And I saw how like that, dressing changes your mood. And it's like putting on makeup. When you feel, kind of crappy during the day, if you put on a little makeup, it kind of enhances your mood a little bit. Taking a shower, just changing the way your current state of things. But that was just more of a exaggeration. Mm-hmm. I felt like I could dominate the world, and I didn't even know how to do anything.
Well, yeah, I mean, and then you did dominate the world. So here you are, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. On the note of flogging, I love watching it. It's like so meditative for me. Just, I like get into some sort of trance if I'm just watching that. I love it.
It's meditative for me too, because you do get into a trance, and sometimes you'll hear like the beat of the rhythm of the music that's behind you, and everything will start flowing into that rhythm, and your partner, you can see them kind of melting into the feeling of it. And yeah, it's like this connective sort of thing, and it's like a current flowing from them to you, back to them, back to you. Mm-hmm. And it's totally meditative. I've left so many sessions on like that endorphin high. People always assume that it's the submissive or the bottom that gets that kind of endorphin high. But no, there's definitely an energy transference. And even though I'm not, getting hit or anything like that, you still walk away with that endorphin kind of high from the experience.
Yeah. I want to go back to something that you said, and it just kind of was in just slid in there, but it was really simple. You said, "Can I spank you?" And that is such an important lesson, I think, in all of this, is the lesson of consent and boundaries, and such a good place to learn how to communicate those things.
I didn't know to do that. Like, there was no idea of consent back then. I mean, I had several situations where I would take a submissive to a club, and somebody would just grab them and start whacking on them. And I'm like, hey, they're mine. You can't touch them. So I had to like teach that. Even women in my industry, that's happened to, where they would just assume if a man's there and he's got a slave collar on, that he's fresh meat and they can touch them. I didn't know her very well. I would have never touched her without permission, we didn't have that relationship. She wasn't a girlfriend. She wasn't a best friend. I wouldn't like touch her hair in like a normal setting if I didn't have permission. Can I touch your hair? So it was just kind of this like thing of like, I didn't know her, but yeah, consent is something that I'm happy to see kind of in the foreground of BDSM now. Lots of discussions about consent and coercion and things like that. So they're not the same thing. Consent is should not be coerced. And so, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a good discussion for people.
I'm sorry, what?
It's a good discussion for people to have.
Yeah. I don't want to get too sidetracked on that, but I think it is really important to talk about. And I think we'll probably talk about it in your class coming up on Saturday. So I don't want to give it all away. What do you consider your specialty?
It's funny. I just had this conversation with someone recently, and I mean, I'm good with a bullwhip. I'm good with a flogger.
David Letterman knows that. We know.
I'm good with the flogger. I'm good with bondage. I'm good with leather. I mean, I have kind of specialized in learning everything, all the tools. But I think where my specialty comes from is being able to connect and read people and also be able to have them relax. Because when people come to see me, especially now, the more my reputation got bigger and the people started watching my videos more and things like that, I would have subs come in and be like shaking, almost like, don't have a heart attack. It's okay. Calm down. And they come in because they have this idea of what I'm going to be like because they see my videos and things like that. And I have a way of diffusing that and bringing them into the moment. And I think that's kind of my specialty, is just reading people and that intuition. But I'm not necessarily good at reading people outside of a scene. I think I'm kind of naive and want to think that people have the best of intentions. And that surprises people, that I'm not just, that the intuition doesn't span across all of these spectrums. It's in a scene because I know what you're there for. We already have that dynamic laid out for us. And so it's easier for me to read someone with that knowledge than the average person on the street, what their intentions are. Like, I know what my clients' intentions are. I know what they're there to get. And I just guide them. But I'm not naturally intuitive to the average person. But in my scenes, I got it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that makes total sense because it's kind of a really safe space to explore. You know, I feel that way on stage. It's like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. Like, I'm in charge of this moment. Like, I'm in charge of connecting with you and bringing you through this arc. But yeah, like off stage, I had to learn that intuition as well. Like,
yeah,
to learn that kind of confidence off the stage because I felt really safe on stage and it was like really clear boundaries, right? But outside of that space, it's a different story.
Yep. And I don't think people understand that. Like, intuition isn't across all spectrums. It's can be narrowed.
Did you grow up as a shy kid or were you confident?
No, incredibly confident. I was pretty much in every club that the school had to offer. I was always like either class president or class vice president, class beauty. I was in pageants. I played basketball. I ran track. I ran cross country. So I was kind of involved in everything. I wanted to do everything. So I've never been shy. It was never that. Definitely a natural leader. Like, I saw people who were shy and I wanted to help them with that and lead them out of that. So yeah, I was definitely more of a leader in like all my sporting activities in all of the clubs that I was in. And then when I went to college, it kind of was the same thing. And I went to college in a town where I didn't know anyone. And I immediately, jumped into a scene and started playing in a band and met people. And so I've never really had a hard time adjusting. I just moved across country to a small town where I knew no one, and I've loved every minute of it and have made some really incredible contacts and friends here. And it didn't take very long for me to do it, but yeah, never been shy, never been bashful.
So as you've been a really confident person throughout your life, what has kink taught you about yourself?
empowerment, that I have a voice. You know, I am from the Me Too movement, where I was stalked when I was younger, before I was a dominatrix. I was sexually harassed in pretty much all of my jobs before I was a dominatrix. I didn't know I had a voice, and I didn't know that I could say no, and that my no meant no, don't fucking touch me, or, you know, you don't have the right to treat me that way because you think you have authority over me. So those were things that I had to learn when I started my profession. I realized that I don't have to allow anything to happen to me. I don't have to smile at you and choke it back and let it pass. Now I will say that's inappropriate, and or you don't have the right to say that to me or to them. And I've also become quite the protector of women in that sense, and like trying to create this sense of empowerment. And I love working with younger women in their early 20s and giving them that voice too, so they didn't have to go through those years trying to find their own voice. So yeah, I think that's the empowerment. And I was never, once I started becoming a dominatrix, I was never sexually harassed again. Like, I know now when I see, even like in a normal setting, when I see someone trying to push in that direction, I know how to diffuse it. And that's because I have a voice, and my voice matters.
Yeah, that's an amazing lesson to learn, that autonomy and agency over yourself, especially in that time when it wasn't as prevalent as it is now, right?
No, I had one employer go, "Oh, what are you going to do? Sue me? You're 18. How are you going to find the money for that?" And he was a manager at a restaurant who was like, you know, grabbing my waist from behind and moving me in front of him and things like that, and telling me I should stay a little later and work. And I was like, "What do you need me to do?" "Oh, you know, we'll find some things," that sort of thing. And I wanted to just keep my job. And when I mentioned it to him, then he was like, "Oh," you know, like totally like, boom, like I was some stupid little 18-year-old girl. And honestly, I was, because I had never learned that you don't get to touch me. I don't care if it's on my arm. Touch my waist. Now, if anybody just comes up and touches my waist, they're going to get an elbow or a punch, or definitely a fuck off. And, you know, in the very least, like, don't touch me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had to learn.
Wow. I just hearing that just makes my heart race.
It makes my skin crawl.
Like
people don't understand, when a woman walks away from that situation, we feel like we need to go and scrub, take a shower, like get that ick off. And it happens way too often. Still happens.
Yeah. And we have to be responsible for their actions.
Yeah. No more.
No more. Indeed. So what is your latest kink, Isabella? I know that you moved across the country and you're pursuing a whole new kind of life. So what are you up to now?
Well, I've always had an interest in renovating houses. I've done that in my side hobby for the last 20 years. But a couple of years ago, I decided that I wanted to try to find an event space, a retreat space that I could invite people to, where they could say, "I want to host a female empowerment retreat. I've got 16 women signed up for this. How much is it to rent your space?" And then people going, "What's a female empowerment retreat?" You know, like kind of policing your activity. And, you know, I've done a lot of these retreats. I've done a lot of education. So I know how hard it is to find these kind of venues. So I was really kind of looking for kind of a safe place for like-minded people to be able to teach and create this environment. Yoga retreats or witch retreats. So, you know, I have friends in LA that own a witchcraft store, and they often want to put together these kind of retreats. And it's also like explaining to someone what kind of people you're going to have in their bed and breakfast. You know, you can't always rent out a hotel for these things, as, you know, I've seen some organizations try to do. And like one event that I went to, we were there with the Southern Baptist Coalition in Texas, was booked into the same hotel as we were. And
Talk about divine intervention, right?
yeah, it was the Texas Latex party.
Oh,
And it was a interesting weekend, to say the least. And then we also did a convention in LA at the Beverly Garland Hotel. And while we were there, this kind of kink convention that was kind of small and tucked into one conference room was also a police convention. So we were sharing the hotel with a bunch of law enforcement officers, which is funny because there was like a scandal that happened at the pool one night, and it was the whole place was buzzing, and everyone was thinking it was our group, and it was their group. We were good,
right.
So I just, wanted to be able to do it in a smaller scale, but now the kind of plan I love this community, so now the kind of plan is to be able to open up and create things for the community as well. I want to open a bar here. I just applied for a liquor license. So I want to open a bar, a boutique curated cocktail and wine bar. The area is lacking that. There's mostly sports bars. And the community knows what I did professionally in LA and are, being totally cool about it and still very supportive. So I have that. My freak flag has never really flown, but they learned who I was. And we're like, yeah, cool. All right. Well, we're happy you're here renovating this mansion, so as long as I'm doing this and making this place beautiful, they're totally supportive. It's been,
oh my goodness. I bet you're the best thing to happen to that town.
Yeah, they didn't know they needed me, and I didn't know I needed them. I'm having such an incredible time. I haven't been this happy in 15 years, I think. I got at a point where I had to hustle and grind all the time in LA, and I was constantly creating more things and more things. And I was realizing that I was creating these things because as my industry was shifting, primarily my industry was about private sessions. And then I shifted into videos because I could reach a broader market. Instead of like an immediate in-town market, I could reach an international market. People could enjoy my craft internationally. Well, then piracy started to happen. My things started getting bootlegged. Then I started I started a website, and then I had a membership-based website. And then the content that I'd put on the website started being ripped from the pages of the website, and that started being pirated. And so it was always like, and of course, every time something like that happens, your sales go down, and then you're trying to figure out, how do I keep my income up and get where I want to be? And so I was constantly always chasing this sort of thing. And I've never made more money than when I just did and only did private sessions. But the internet changed the private sessions because people didn't need to see you anymore. They could go online and get whatever they needed. So I went online to give them what they needed. And, it's like this thing is this ebb and flow. And then money's good for a second. And then people figure out a way to compromise what you're doing, and it goes down. And then you have to figure out something else to bring it up. And sessions have never been as regular as pre-internet for anyone. I mean, I went from doing 20 hours of appointments a week to doing 8. And so see the income drop. So you start supplementing your income with other things. And so I always did that. And then I created a studio so that other women could use the space. Well, then I had to manage that. And that was an extra amount of time. So I was just adding more to my plate all the time. But my income was never really going up. Mm-hmm. And when COVID hit, it kind of made me address that. I was suddenly running 3 different companies, and they were all kind of working together in the same way, but my income wasn't increasing. And it follows that mentality of you can only chase one rabbit at a time. Well, I had to chase a bunch of different rabbits in order to still keep using my knowledge in my industry and creating a business model that worked for me, for my future, what I wanted to continue to put away for my future. So it was, COVID kind of forced me to readdress that whole thing. And now I want to be able to travel to see clients. I want to be able to travel for events. I want to be able to slow down my day-to-day workload. And this was just like kind of the perfect thing to do that.
Yeah, I see you kind of as a boutique domme, like some artisan Dominatrix, right? I wonder, like, what do you think after all of this, if there is an after? I'm not quite sure what that means or what that looks like, but do you feel that there will be a shift from just consuming online content and really wanting that in-person personal
Yeah, I
experience?
think that we will definitely see an uptick on people needing that personal connection with this. People have tried to book during this time, but it's just a very difficult time to book and so many uncertainties. So I think once the storm passes, and who knows if that's going to be by July 4th, but I'm half vaccinated right now. So at least I will feel like I can do sessions and do it safely. So I think that
and adding masks to the fashion really just like heightens the fashion, right?
Yeah. 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 I mean, people in my industry are like, well, masks are fine. You can wear a mask. It's very sexy to just see eyes. But I also think that there will be an uptick in performance-based art. I think that there will be an uptick in private or in parties. Because people have missed that so much that everyone's going to be going to like every possible thing that interests them. You won't think, oh, I can just do that next year.
Right.
I think they'll be like, I'm going to do that now because there may not be a next year. It's given us the importance of like seizing that. Like, I know if I have the opportunity to do an event or see a concert, I'm not going to wait. I'm going to be like, I'm going to go see that concert.
Same.
So
yeah,
I think it's made people, long for that connection and to be able to see art and taste food and really enjoy the things that gave them pleasure before, but it's going to be amplified.
Yeah, and not wait to put off pleasure. I think we always think, like we have the good towels and we have the good furniture or the good lingerie or whatever, and we're always saving things for some undetermined moment in time. And it's like, no, now is the time. Like now.
Use the fine china. Break out the fine china. Have a dinner with fine china, even if it's just meatloaf. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Indulge.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm definitely of that mentality. Your project and the whole thought process behind Into Pleasure was something that I was like, I want to be a part of that because of that reason.
Yes.
Yeah.
So happy to have you be a part of that. And what can we expect from you at Into Pleasure?
Well, I'm teaching a class called Practical Kink. And I love the fact that it's just for women, so I don't have to be distracted by that male energy. Mm-hmm. It is teaching women about the aspects of it and kind of like allowing them to think about it more and giving them permission, because I think that a lot of women are intimidated by it more than men. They might hear it, see it, think maybe, but they don't know how to do it, how to get it. Even I've talked to people who work in stores. My products, I have a product line and my products are in stores, and women will cut their eyes toward it, but it's black. And even though I'm on the cover and I'm like, come get these products, women, like you can have these products too. The salespeople kind of have to be like, oh yeah, come over here, and kind of gear them toward it because they are intimidated or a little afraid of it. And I just want to kind of diffuse that a little bit and really be able to engage women in the fact that even if you're a sub or a dom, you can ask for these things and do them in a practical way. And you don't have to have a dungeon and you don't have to have a whole lot of experience. I can help you with that.
Yeah.
You're not born with the knowledge. No one is born with the knowledge of how to do these things. You might have a little bit of, it might be in you a little bit naturally. It was in me naturally, but then I had to be self-taught. And I was in a setting where I was working on the job. It was on the job training. I mean, I basically started being a dominatrix, having 2 sessions under my belt of watching scenes. Otherwise, I had never seen a whip before in my life besides a bullwhip. So I got into it with not a whole lot of knowledge, but my clients were more than happy to teach me how to use these things. So my situation was a little unique in that. But I also, like I said, I've never been shy, reserved in that way. I'm like, teach me, give me more, show me, bring, I'm open to the universe giving me everything that it wants to put in front of me, and I want to learn it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Not a lot of.
what I really enjoy about you is your curiosity. Like you are still open, even with all of this experience that you have, you still remain curious and you still reach for that knowledge. And I think that that's so important because we have the phrase curiosity killed the cat, right? But what does that do? Like that completely shuts us off from experience of any kind, whether that's pleasurable, sexual, kinky, sensual, like whatever. It kind of just shuts us down. So I think that curiosity is so important to just exploring what it is that brings you pleasure.
I mean, I have 27 years experience and I can tell you that I don't know everything. I am still learning. I can go into a scene with a woman who has only been working for 5 years and she might be doing something differently than I am, or she was trained differently than I was. And I go, oh, huh, I like that. Okay. So I'm always learning. I will never, if I ever reach a point where I'm not learning how to do this, I'll probably stop doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not a challenge anymore. I'm not growing anymore. And I always want to continue to grow. And that's kind of, the whole world is like that for me. Like I want to travel. I want to see, I want to taste, I want to hear, I want to connect on different levels. I want to understand different cultures. I've always longed for that. So
yeah,
if I didn't have that, I'd be bored.
Yeah. Like just
luckily, I've never been bored. 27 years is longevity in this industry, and it's because I've never been bored.
Yeah. And you're ravenous for life and you can feel that. It's good. I love it. So where can people find you, Isabella?
Isabella.
Isabella.
I'm everywhere. I mean, you Google Isabella Sinclaire, I pop up. I have Instagram is kind of the platform that I update the most. It's the Isabella Sinclaire. I was late to the game on that, and someone jumped in and got Isabella Sinclaire. And even though it's trademarked, I could go and get that name. It's, get it convincing Instagram to give it to me. I don't know what the people are doing sitting on it. But it's the Isabella Sinclaire. I don't really activate Twitter anymore. One of my former companies, I stopped producing videos several years ago, but my company was called Gwen Media, and the films are still active, and that's where you can find videos about me is through gwenmedia.com. But I also have my personal website, isabellasinclaire.com, and you can see a little bit more history about me and some older photos and things like that. But if you want to follow my day-to-day, especially with me renovating this place, which has been kind of fun to switch gears and, be the building dom, the painting dom, the scraping paint dom. You can follow me there. And I've enjoyed being able to share that too. And it seems also that a lot of the women are the ones that comment on me doing this project, because it seems to empower them a little bit that they can do these things too. Like, this is not a man's world. Jump in, do this. So, and I've enjoyed it.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Go ahead. Did want to. So one of my play partners, her name is Saint Leather. She makes play toys, and she donated this for my class. So during my class, I'm going to raffle this off to one of the guests. So I just wanted to kind of show that too.
So this is a special flogger. What is that?
It's called a duster. It's very soft. It's heavy weighted. So you can feel kind of the thud, but it's not like a paddle thud or hand spank thud. It's easy to use. It's not very long. You don't have a whole lot of experience. I usually don't hand floggers to people and go figure out how to use this. I like to teach people how to use it, but this one is very self-explanatory and couldn't really hurt anyone unless you hit them, with the wrong end. And I think that people are smart enough to figure that one out.
Yeah. And who's the maker again?
Her name is Saint Leather. Yeah. She's on Instagram as Saint Leather. She's a beautiful woman who is in the scene and such an artisan. So I love her products. I have several myself. And I was very flattered that she thought to send that to me for this class.
That is so wonderful. Thank you, Saint Leather.
Thank you, Saint.
Oh, thank you, Isabella. I'm so looking forward to working with you on Saturday. So for all of you out there, make sure you go to intopleasure.com to join me and Isabella and 3 other pleasure experts on March 20th. It's going to be so fun. So excited.
I'm looking forward.
Yeah. All right, everyone. So go to intopleasure.com and remember, spread your legs and spread the love. Like us, love us, share us. Follow Isabella. Follow me at Michelle Amore, or follow Look Down There at I Look Down There on Instagram. And as always, reminder to grab a mirror and look down there.